Part 3 in my Genesis Flood series, The World After the Flood. Part 1 examines evidences for the Genesis flood in the appearance or geomorphology of the Earth's surface, and Part 2 describes how the Earth's sedimentary rocks were laid down and the fossils formed within a catastrophist flood paradigm. Few people today believe that the global Genesis flood of the Bible and the destruction of the old world is anything more than a legend. As a result, the authority of Scripture has been undermined. Yet this wasn't always the case. Until the 1850s, the book of Genesis was held to be an accurate account of world history, with an Earth less than 10,000 years old and having a supernatural creator. This was the worldview of many of the founding fathers of modern science, men such as Sir Isaac Newton, Louis Pasteur and Charles Babbage. Following the publication of Charles Lyell's Principles of Geology in 1830, the uniformitarian view of the Earth's history began to predominate. This is slow and steady change over ever-increasing timescales. Lyell's stated purpose was to free the science from Moses. This tells us that he was not looking at the evidence to see where it led, but had a no-God agenda. At the present time, geologists are once again beginning to recognise the catastrophic nature of the evidence, but these neo-catastrophists maintain long periods of time between events, not because the evidence proves it, but in order to accommodate the claims of evolutionary biology, a separate subject. The no-God agenda is still the paradigm today in the natural sciences. The Bible tells us in 2 Peter 3 that such a time would come when people would reject the flood in order to reject Scripture. The idea of a single catastrophe would be mocked, despite the evidence, not because of it. An understanding of the flood is important because Jesus taught it, and he also said that if we would not believe earthly things, where the physical evidence is available for examination, then we would not believe heavenly things. At one time, like most people, I didn't believe the Bible was true in all it said, but I recognised that it had truth in it. I started reading the book of Genesis, which is at the beginning of the Bible, and realised when reading about the flood that the Bible was written as a narrative and not as a story. This was the passage that caused me to reconsider. Why, after the destruction of the old world and the deaths of millions of people and animals, would such a seemingly insignificant detail be included? Why wouldn't Noah go outside the ark to retrieve the dove? One reason, I believe, is that he had never seen direct sunlight before, since the book of Genesis describes a pre-flood world which had a vapour canopy over the earth, nor was there a water cycle and rain, the ground being irrigated by spring water and mists. As the waters receded off the land, the earth would have been unrecognisable from its previous home. The atmosphere would be dark from clouds of volcanic ash, the earth's surface devoid of vegetation and less oxygen in the air. Using biblical chronology, scholars believe that the ark came to rest on the mountains of Ararat in what is now northeastern Turkey about 2350 BC. The Jewish historian Josephus, writing in the 1st century, notes a location called the Place of Descent in the same area. We don't know that this was the Ark landing site, but we do know that it was a place of pilgrimage for many years. One of the clues in the area are what appear to be these very large anchor stones. Similar items have been recovered from ancient wrecks in the Mediterranean. These anchor stones were used to secure the ship to the seabed and also during storms to steady the ship by towing them behind. The stones at Kazan are much larger than those recovered from wrecks, but the Ark was a very large vessel. When the time came to leave the ark, God gave Noah a promise that he would never again destroy the earth by water. For Noah this would have been a welcome reassurance. The rainbow was given as a sign. A rainbow is only possible in direct sunlight. In the pre-flood world there were no rainbows because of the high altitude vapour canopy. Noah was also instructed to repopulate the earth. If year zero for the 8 survivors of the human race is 2350 BC in northeastern Turkey, what evidence can be found from secular sources to verify the biblical account? Firstly, there is general agreement amongst archaeologists that the earliest civilizations began in Mesopotamia, otherwise referred to as the Fertile Crescent. Eastern Turkey lies within this area. Other ancient remains have also been found in the Indus Valley in India and South America, more on that later. The first agriculture began here. The Bible teaches that Noah planted vines and enjoyed wine. The oldest vine culture is found within the Fertile Crescent and specifically eastern Turkey, and it is in this area of Turkey that researchers are looking for the ancestor of the modern grapevine. The journalist is puzzled as to why the best grapes in Turkey are grown in the mountainous northeast when they would grow better on the sunnier coastal plains, but it would make sense if the first and best vines were in the northeast. The first wild and then domesticated wheat is thought to have come from eastern Turkey. The oldest smelted iron artifact has been found in Anatolia, Turkey. The earliest known textiles are found in Anatolia, Turkey. Eastern Turkey and Anatolia are locations which reoccur when discussing early civilization. According to the Bible, man was already fully developed, and upon leaving the ark, these would be the areas where the survivors first settled. Anatolia, Turkey, where the oldest iron smelting and textiles were found, is also home to the world's oldest town, according to the Global Heritage Fund. First discovered in 1958, excavations are ongoing at the present time. Inside the excavated houses are hunting scenes, what appears to be a street map, and a leopard wall relief suggesting that leopards were found in Turkey back then. It is estimated that the site was in use for 1,000 years, with the population averaging 5,000 to 8,000 people. There are some unusual features about the mud brick construction of the houses. They are all family dwellings. There are no public buildings such as temples. There are no streets. Getting across town meant using the roofs. None of the buildings have doors or windows at ground level, and access to each house is through the roof. There are no doorways between rooms, just low openings. The dead are buried inside the houses. One house had 37 graves. Could it be that in the years after the flood, the wild animal population had increased much more quickly than the human population? Today, in areas of the world where large predators such as lions exist, it is important that they do not acquire a taste for human flesh, otherwise they will become manhunters. Burying the dead inside the house might have been a necessary precaution to prevent wild animals digging up a fresh grave and acquiring a taste for humans. The layout of the town is defensive above convenient. It would be safest, for instance, to travel as high above the ground as possible on the roofs. Having no doors or windows at ground level would be another precaution, inconvenient but safer. If wild beasts did get into a house, it would have been easier to contain and kill it with the small internal openings. Before Israel commenced its conquest of Canaan, God promised that he would not drive out the Canaanites from the land straight away, otherwise the wild animals would be out of control. But could there have been larger animals than the leopard in the wall relief? What about this soft tissue found within a partially fossilized T-Rex bone discovered in Montana, USA by paleontologists from North Carolina University? Thorough testing has revealed the soft tissue to be red blood cells, blood vessels and tendons. These cannot have been preserved for millions of years. Like the hadrosaur, this animal is thousands of years old, not millions. If we are going to be consistent with the biblical model, all the kinds of pre-flood animals, including the dinosaurs, would have to have been taken aboard the ark, and the descendants have multiplied in the post-flood world, some being more successful than others, or eventually hunted to extinction. The average dinosaur was the size of a sheep. Not all were large, and even the large ones could have been taken aboard when young and small.